Everyone, right before the Chinese New Year of 2024, I'm here in the beautiful Dali, in a beautiful retreat courtyard, and I'm excited to continue the third part of my open communication in intimate partnership presentation. And let me start by wishing everyone a Happy New Year, whether you are celebrating Chinese New Year or not. I hope the spirit of the festivity and the goodwill and the celebration of the changing of season will come to you in a positive energy. And then let me start by sharing the presentation that we ended last time. The last time when we ended, we finished talking about what to talk about in different stages of our relationship and in the kind of key topics that we might share with each other. And I emphasized when I ended the last part that it's just as important to know how to talk to each other as it is what to talk about. Because so often in my practice, when I'm facilitating the communication between partners, that even though they are um, truly speaking their truth and really sincerely sharing their needs, the way that we talk can really put each other on the defense, that even while I can hear clearly what each partner is saying, their vulnerabilities, their fears, their love, it can be very common that the partners are completely hearing the opposite or missing things or becoming quite feeling attacked and feeling their own um, deficiency rather than truly hearing what their partner is sharing. So I'm hoping that this part will give some clues to how we can share that so that our partner will be able to hear us better, right? And of course, the responsibility is equally on both sides in learning to lower our defenses so that we don't appear to be attacking to each other. And so often we forget that we are fundamentally still feeling and perceiving each other in a very animalistic way, meaning our limbic system is up in arms, constantly detecting dangers behind other people's words, not hearing with our prefrontal cortex the actual meaning of the words, but how those feelings that are being conveyed are felt, our end. And if our limbic system is activated, we go into sympathetic system of fight and flight or freeze, then it's understandable that it's very hard for us to hear each other. So how do we talk about to each other? And so I was saying in the part where I was still in that beautiful background in Dali about I statements. This is one of the techniques that a lot of you probably have already heard in other situations where it's a way to bring the focus back onto what we need rather than making it about the accusation of what the other person needs. So often it is instinctual for us to say, you forgot to do this and you are making me feeling this way, or you don't care about me, or you never listen, or you're so and so, and you always forget. And it's natural, right? Because it is immediately what's in front of us. It's a very authentic reaction. Unfortunately, with communication, what we're trying to emphasize here is that it does need skills. We're not just communicating with that instinctual, reactive, fight and flight limbic system or amygdala that needs to kind of strike out and protect ourselves and get our way and tell other people that what we didn't get. That's a very instinctual limbic system, or sometimes we say the neck down reaction. But in communications, as we are trying to create the safest environment possible, we suggest that when you are able to always start with I statement. The reason for that is then it's much easier for the other person to see that there's a need about us, that we're trying to fulfill, that we need to have someone help us take out the trash, that we are feeling like we need someone's care, that I would really appreciate it if you could listen to me, and that I am feeling sad or hurt and I need your attention. So this way, the instinctual reaction from the other person's limbic system or their emotional or fight and flight system, that's very automatic, right? That's fraction of a second reaction isn't about, whoa, someone is telling me, particularly this person I love, my partner, who means a lot to me, who, can easily push all these feelings inside of me, is telling me I'm not doing a good job. And that kind of reaction is very different if they hear from us, during a day-to-day situation where I'm tired, I really need your help. Could you take out the trash? Or I'm, having a tough day. I really appreciate if you could listen to me. And of course, in the moment, it's very hard to remember all of that. So there's a little formula that, as you can see on the right side of the screen, where if you kind of follow this, and of course, it takes some practice, right? It is a training. It's not automatic. It is like going to the gym, working on your muscles. You start with I. That's why we call I statement. I feel really exhausted. And when I have to come home and cook all this dinner and still have to deal with the trash. So, because that makes me feel, I'm not getting the partnership I need, or I'm not being helped. So could you next time, please, at dinner time, help me take out the trash? Right. Again, I'm just making these scenarios up. You can replace it with exactly what your need is, because everyone's need is different, right? I feel really sad or misunderstood if you're not looking at me when I'm talking to you. Because, I really need to see your eyes to know you are actually listening to me and understand. So next time, please, could you look at me and put your phone down when I'm talking to you? So you notice as I'm using this I statement, I am also very conscientiously lowering my voice and using a very vulnerable position to express, right? And we can say all the right things, but if you come across as like, I feel this way when you do that. So, because, if you do that, then it makes me feel this way. So next time, please do this. That's still going to come across as rather aggressive, right? I'm not very good at acting in that sense, but you get the gist. So it matters a lot what state of mind we're in. This is a toolbox, but we do need to be in the right moment to be able to execute. And that is where it brings me to the second very important element about how we communicate. And we talked a lot about what to communicate in part one, part two, talk about the timing, talk about scheduling, talk about I statement as the toolbox. But in terms of how to talk to each other, it's so important that we first take care of ourselves. And this is the place I often come to, whether I'm talking about couple relationships, whether I'm talking to parents about their children, whether I'm talking to a young adult about their friendships. I often come to this place. And what do I mean by this place? This stage 4 steps that are meant to put ourselves in a calming state, in a place where we are most ready and most suitable for communication. Because if we're not in the right state of mind, it does not matter how many toolboxes we have. We're not going to be able to use it in a way that is going to open the other person's heart. We're only going to be inadvertently, of course, activating the other person's defense system. So let me go through these 4 steps, and just keeping in mind, goal of communication in any kind of relationship, right? Whether it's the intimate partnership, parent, child, and even in your workplace, is always about building safety. right? Of course, the intimacy is a bit more unique to the couples here. But these stage 4 steps can be very applicable to all kinds of communication and to all kinds of situations where we're trying to build relationship. So I'll show everyone what I mean by using these stage 4 steps to prepare ourselves to get ready to use those toolboxes. So the first part is about making sure we're in the right state of mind. When I was just using the I statement earlier, everyone noticed I, kind of slowed down my voice and, I was sort of trying to shift my volume, my tone from a little bit of that kind of upbeat presentation mode, right? Because when we're talking to our partners, we're talking to someone who is very emotionally connected with us. There's an emotional charge. There is a lot at stake because we care about each other so much. So we're very sensitive to each other's feelings. That's why we often say, oh, the people who love us the most, knows which button to push the most. Not because they're, intentionally trying to hurt us. It's just we know each other so well and we care so much. So it's so important that we first check in with our own system, right? What is the relationship our mind is having in this moment with our own body? Okay? Am I calming? When I look at this little candle, this little prop photo on the screen, am I able to actually sink in and say, wow, I can have a moment, this conversation I'm about to have with my partner, it's important, but I don't have to have it in this moment because I'm not so activated. I must talk to him now and I must get this resolved. Unless it's a life and death situation, in which case probably it isn't a talking situation. It's more of an action situation. If it's something you're actually talking about, you're communicating about, then it's never it has to be this moment, right? We have to get to that point where we're feeling just, okay, I'm okay. If I get to it, that's great because I'm ready. If I don't, because we're busy, we're in the middle of something else, my partner is in the wrong mood, that's okay too. So really, this is basically checked in by our own biological signals. Your breathing status. Are you, kind of taking short breaths? Are you able to slow down? How tired are you? Is this the right moment? Or are you dragged down by a whole day of work that you just can't stomach any more stress? Are you hungry? It's not infrequent that I run into couples who argue precisely when they're hungry. I certainly get hangry sometimes if I'm not paying close attention and start getting into useless argument. And I mentioned sex again here. We talked about sex as an important part of intimacy. Sometimes when we're not connecting sexually, that really can impact us, right? And if we, at a fundamental level, if we're not feeling calm, we're not feeling our basic physical needs are met, perhaps those are the things we need to think about and communicate about first before we jump onto other things, about housework, about education philosophy, because those differences sometimes can, even if they're all real differences, it can differ in the level of intensity we perceive them depending on how steady and calm our biological system is beating. So this is where I always bring it back to ourselves. Make sure we're okay first, right? And role model that for our family as well in taking care of yourself. Now, whatever you might be feeling after you have checked in with yourself in that first step, the secure, the first letter S, secure, we just covered. And now we come to accept. Because sometimes whatever we're feeling, it's not as simple as, oh, I'm hungry, let me feed myself. I'm thirsty, let me have some water. I'm tired, let me rest. Sometimes their issues are coming up that really bring up a lot of very complicated emotions. Um, I'm just listing 6 examples on the page, but there's so many more that could be happening. There's grief, there is stress at work, a sense of failure if we're not doing well in some of our own projects. Shame is often the big one that might be causing us to feel very, very frustrated. Perhaps it is the issue that you're about to connect with your partner. But even before you talk about it, there's a sense of shame, there's a sense of, oh, should I even be feeling this way? Or am I right in having the anger about this issue? This is the right time, or am I thinking it correctly? A lot of that emotion is coming up. Now, I'm not saying critically examining what you're thinking about is not the right thing, but if they're feeling accompanying it, it's so important that we first, by connecting with ourselves, understand and accept what we're feeling. Because even if you end up realizing, oh, this thing I'm thinking about is actually more due to something I'm going through, or something I might have a misunderstanding or wrong perception about, your feeling is not wrong. If you're feeling a bit angry about something in the moment, if you're feeling embarrassed by something, because you're worried that someone might not accept your thoughts and reactions, your feeling is 100% valid. It's only in validating those feelings, accepting them, that we actually can calm down whatever might be activated in the sort of fight and flight, or sometimes instead of fight and flight, we might freeze, meaning we get stuck and don't know what to do. And we might become a people pleaser. That's another reaction. So it's so important to validate these feelings, that sometimes, unless we specifically, mindfully check in with ourselves, this is where I do find a lot of us, after long years of education, might have been educated out of our feelings. And sometimes we need some help. And I often help a lot of people in this process of connecting with what they're feeling. Because step 3 and 4, often people have very little trouble with, and I'll show you why. Because once people have realized, oh, that's what I'm feeling, and then this is where they realize, oh, okay, I was afraid, my husband might feel this is not fair. I was angry that he thinks that this is what he's entitled to. Then they can actually fully comprehend the situation. And the third step, guiding yourself to use the right tools to facilitate that communication, then to express what you're feeling accurately and calmly, because you have already processed and validated and released some of that sadness, anger, embarrassment. Then it's much easier to be in a calmer state and using that I statement, arrange those schedules, right? And to find different ways of communicating. If you find talking is too, oh gosh, the minute I bring this up and the minute we make eye contact, I'm so activated. Well, then let's explore writing a letter. Let's explore writing an email. All of that then can be at your disposal, but only after we have taken care of the body at its basic fundamental reaction level, so it does not interfere with what's happening up here. Again, the biological reaction can be much faster. The limbic system, the fight and flight system, it's a fraction of a second. We cannot overpower that with our force of will or logic. So we intentionally make it conscious. We work with it, we process in the first 2 steps, the secure and the acceptance, and then we come to the third step. And so often we skip through the first 2 steps because we mistakenly believe we are just somehow a robotic, rational human being. We're just supposed to be able to do the right thing. We are advanced, rational human being, but we're also sharing a body that's very sensitive, that have some very important reaction system that's meant to protect us. We do need to acknowledge and honor that. So, and this is where I emphasize the word experiment. When you do come to this third step, when you feel like you have made yourself feel safe and you're feeling secure, you're feeling you're accepting your emotions, you have gotten in touch with all the emotional waves, and you're using all the tools, certainly be aware that sometimes it takes a few tries before you find the right way. Sometimes I statement works wonderfully. Sometimes creating a schedule is great. Other times you might find actually this didn't really resonate with my partner, or the schedule didn't really work. How do we keep tweaking it? Right? Don't ever expect that somehow right away I find a magic bullet, because every one of us is so unique. And then when we are partnered up with each other, then we have infinite versions of unique partnership. So it's so important we keep on experimenting and have a high tolerance for failures. If there's a fundamental respect, fundamental agreement that you're both working towards good communication, then keep experimenting. And the final step is going back to ourselves. I'm trying to not block. Again, going back to ourselves, because what I'm trying to emphasize here is that after all the first, second, third step, after you perhaps have tried different toolbox, implemented different schedule for communicating, for arranging the housework, for expressing your feelings, and you're waiting for some changes to take place, because changes are not instantaneous. If you're trying to communicate something, you're hoping to bring about change, then we have to be patient for some of that to sink in. And we can't expect the other system to immediately adopt everything. Even ourselves, right? We're trying to create new schedules, adjusting in new ways of creating physical intimacy, for example, or new ways of sharing the house chores. We take time. So in the meantime, right, instead of hovering about and say, have you changed yet? Or are we okay yet? Kind of being really impatient for that outcome, go back to yourself. Go back to focus on self-care and taking care of your own daily routine in a way to embody exactly what we're hoping to see in our partner, right? If we're expecting them to stay calm in the communication, to be proactive in arranging date night, for example, or in using I statement, are we doing it? Right? Someone has to be the leader in this case. We can't always be 100% 50-50 and fair. So if everyone is saying, you got to do it first, right? I did it the last time. Everyone sometimes feel as if they just did their part. Then we're never really going to get anywhere. So this is where we go back to focusing on, am I embodying what I want my partner to do with me? So this is where I'm going to stop for this part. And the next final section of this topic, I'm going to talk about the art of fighting. Of course, they're talking about communication and talking about wanting to communicate in the most peaceful, calm way, using our I statement, using our stage 4 steps. But you know what? Sometimes our animal instinctual fight and flight reaction is going to get better of us. So how do we handle that? And particularly if we have children, how do we manage that? Right? And um, I want you guys to know it's not the end of the world. And we'll share that next time. Thanks for listening.